Biden mulling plan that could restrict asylum claims at the border. The action under consideration could prevent people from making asylum claims during border crossing surges. The White House says it is far from a decision on the matter. So this is interesting because the GOP has been claiming that Biden can take care of the border himself. He doesn't need any new laws. He doesn't need Congress to do anything. And seeing this story, you would think that, damn, maybe they're right. Biden is going to take unilateral action to do something about the border. What happened here? What's the talking point? What's the pushback? So that's my main goal of looking at this, is to arm you guys with the rebuttal, because there is one. And I don't know if I read this article last night, but I read a similar article about what's going on here. And just to summarize, to me, it sounds like Biden is going to try to do something and tempt the courts. I don't know the right word. The goal is to get sued, basically, so that the courts put an injunction on it. And then he can go to the public and say, look, I told you I can't do anything on my own. The courts won't let me do this. I need the laws changed. That seems to me to be the best case scenario for Biden. Alternatively, if for some reason the courts don't shut down what he tries to do here, then he actually does impact the flow of humanity at the southern border. And that's, a win for him as well. Right now, you got to do something. You got to do something about the border. You cannot just accept the status quo. We're going to lose the election if that's the case. Something has to give. Either we blame the hell out of the Republicans and convince the American people it's their fault, or Biden actually does something. And best case scenario is let's do something about it. So let's see. President Biden is considering executive action that could prevent people who cross illegally into the United States from claiming asylum. Several people with knowledge of the proposal said Wednesday. The move would suspend longtime guarantees that give anyone who steps onto U.S. soil the right to ask for safe haven.
Seriously, we have to deny asylum because it's the only legal way without congressional approval to remove people. There's going to be just more apprehensions. That result, they're coming either way if it's that bad. And it would be if you're claiming asylum. This helps the GOP.
Well, most of these people are claiming asylum, and so it would just give the Biden administration a way to reject their claims temporarily to send a message so that they stop. Because as soon as you start kicking out a bunch of them and people see they're not getting in, then that word is going to spread and they're going to stop trying. So that seems to be the goal. But that is what needs to happen. We need to tighten up our asylum rules because they're not made to deal with a humanitarian crisis, a refugee crisis. They're meant to deal with the occasional person who escapes whatever miserable condition they're in and comes to our shores and is looking for salvation. But it's not meant to take in millions of people from around the world. And now we're seeing people come from all over the world. You think the majority turned away, won't try another way? There is no other way. This is how they're getting in here. This is the vast majority of people. Are there a few that sneak in and don't claim asylum and just live in the shadows? Sure, but the vast majority of these people that are coming to our southern border are turning themselves in and claiming asylum. There's no way they could translate that into something else, right? Like, there's just no way. These people are showing up in buses and trains or whatever and just walking to the Border Patrol saying, arrest me, I'm here to claim asylum. So if they lose that, then what's the alternative? I mean, they're going to sneak in. There's just too many of them. Sure, some of them will still do that, but I think it'll be a trickle compared to what's going on right now. This is just my opinion. The order would put into effect a key policy in a bipartisan bill that Republicans thwarted earlier this month, even though it had some of the most significant border security restrictions Congress has contemplated in years. The bill would have essentially shut down the border to new entrants if more than an average of 5,000 migrants per day tried to cross unlawfully in the course of a week, or more than 8,500 tried to cross in a given day. The action under consideration by the White House would have a similar trigger for blocking asylum to new entrants. The people with knowledge of the proposal say. They spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss internal deliberations. The move, if enacted, would echo a 2018 effort by President Trump to block migration, which was assailed by Democrats and blocked by federal courts. So see, this is what Biden's probably hoping for, that the federal courts will block this action, and then he'll be able to look to the American people and say, I can't do this on my own. This is what I'm talking about, right? So he almost has to do this in a sense to prove that he does not have the ability to stop what's happening at the southern border. Although such an action would undoubtedly face legal challenges, the fact that Mr. Biden is considering it shows just how far he has shifted on immigration since he came into office, promising a more humane system after the Trump years. I understand this criticism, but things change. The reality on the ground changes, and you cannot be held to your campaign promise if the situation on the ground has been altered. I mean, what the hell? It's like saying, well, you promised to save 25% of your money and now you're only saving 20%. You're like, yeah, well, I got into a car accident, man. What do you want me to do? I had to pay some medical bills and had to get a new car. It's like, well, you promised 25%. Like, bro, I got in a car accident. Doesn't matter. Mr. Biden has taken a much harder line as the number of people crossing the U.S.-Mexico border has reached record levels and the chronically underfunded and understaffed asylum system reaches a breaking point. Still, even if Mr. Biden tried to take unilateral action to cut down on the number of people claiming asylum, a lack of resources would still be an enormous obstacle to any major changes at the border. U.S. officials have said they needed a massive infusion of cash to hire Border Patrol agents and asylum officers and to expand detention facilities. The bill that failed in Congress would have provided billions in funding, including the hiring of thousands of asylum officers to process claims. No executive action, no matter how aggressive, can deliver the significant policy reforms and additional resources Congress can provide and the Republicans rejected, said Angelo Fernandez Hernandez, a White House spokesman. Mr. Biden has directly blamed Mr. Trump for using his influence over the GOP to kill the same bipartisan immigration deal that Republicans had been demanding for years. Mr. Biden predicted in a speech earlier this month that Republicans would move to block the bill. Why? A simple reason, he said. Donald Trump. Because Trump thinks this is bad for him politically. So I just wanted to read the details of this because you're going to hear some grumbling about this, like that Biden is being too harsh. You're going to hear criticism from Republicans that Biden is doing what they said he could do. They said he could act unilaterally. And look, here it is. Biden's doing exactly what they said he could do. He doesn't need Congress's help. But you hear the pushback. Number one, he needs a lot more money and resources to do this. And number two, it's probably not legal and he's going to get shut down by the courts.
I'm confused. It seems really strange that Biden is trying this hard over an issue Democrats already know are overblown, to the point of potentially pulling a deeply unpopular Trump move. Is his campaign not thinking the landscape for Biden is as safe as we do? This, unfortunately for me, sounds like he's scared.
I think you could read into it like that, but I think that this is Biden adapting to the situation. This is a different moment from 2020 when he was running for office. Back then, it was people coming from our southern hemisphere, and it was nowhere near the numbers we're seeing now. And so now we have people coming from all over the world, China, India, the Middle East. I mean, Trump did not see this when he was president and when Biden was running in 2020. And so he's adapting to the situation, and we have to clamp down on what's going on at the southern border until we can get a firm handle on it. So to me, it's just Biden adapting to the situation. It's not he's changing policy or anything. I think we can still be compassionate to people coming to our southern border. But right now, we're just being overwhelmed. We don't have the resources in place. And look at the Tom Suozzi election last week to replace George Santos in New York. He ran on this issue that we need to shut the border down. We need to figure out a solution. And that was a winning message. And so as much as I think we could handle all these people coming in and we could deal with this issue and make the most of it, if we had the Republicans playing ball and everybody was on board and we had a full team effort, coordination between Texas and the northern states and all the states working together to take in as many of these people as we can and have an orderly process and speed up the immigration review process, the asylum review process with money from Congress and hiring more Border Patrol, we could handle this problem, right? We could brilliantly handle this issue and take advantage of it. This is influx of humanity, people that want to be Americans. They want to be here. We need them. We have room. We have the jobs. Lord knows in the future we're going to need these people, and because of declining birth rates and aging population. But the problem is the political reality doesn't allow us to deal with the problem in the best way. So Biden has to do something. We also have to accept that Republicans can win the messaging war by pounding the drums about the border being out of control. People may not like it, and it might upset some people within our party, but if we don't maintain power and stay in power by appealing to the widest group of people, then we can't do anything, and it only gets a lot worse. I think it's just the normal pivot to the center in the election year is supposed to be expected. Yeah, I don't see anything strange about what's happening here.